Good morning for the second part of the route around Malham. Last time we finished up at Malham Tarn. I came down the Watlowsby dry valley that comes out at the top of the cove. So this time we're following the road called Street Gate and then coming all the way down to Gordale Scar. This comes really, this is a road here because that's the path up to Gordale Scar shown there, but the road which comes along here comes up to Newhouse Farm, which is a national nature reserve, and that's really where the road ends. But you can see here, there's Bordley here. So when I start on the Grassington talk, I'm actually going to come up to this nook in the road just up there, because that's as far as the tarmac road goes. It then goes really onto a non-vehicle access one because it comes to the hamlet of Bordley, population 23. Just coming back, looking at this dotted line across here, that's that's Mastiles Lane going across there as well. The stream coming down here, that's Gordale Beck. That's the one that comes over Gordale Scar and then goes over Janet's Foss and then goes into Malham Beck, just a bit at Malham, to form part of the River Aire down there. So that's really the sort of area that we're looking at, Janet's Foss by the side of the road as we approach Gordale Scar. Today, actually, as in today, is that the road here from out of Malham to Gordale Scar is closed, but as you'll see on the film, is that didn't stop me going down and having a look just for the sake of filming it for ourselves. And there is a little bit of parking just there. That's probably why they stopped it, because there's hundreds of visitors going down there. They'd all have to turn around, come back, and it really is a single track road down there. By Janet's Foss, there's actually a sort of caravan that actually sells food around there. So what I'm going to do is show you the bit of film on sort of Gordale Scar, not Gordale Scar, up on here, coming down to Gordale Scar itself. So it comes across Mastiles Lane. So I've put a drone across there. I've not taken it quite far enough because it's sort of run out of distance. It goes for about a mile. So I guess this is really on the cusp of it. But just here is a Roman marching camp. And so they probably were the first people who built Mastiles Lane across here. The marching camps, they normally had a day apart for them to rest, so a legion could rest in them, and it's on the traditional sort of site size of a Roman fortress around there. The Mastiles Lane actually goes through the centre of it, so that's where the track goes through there. Mastiles Lane was then used later on for Fountains Abbey. They had most of the area up here above the cove, although they did have a little bit of land down in Malham itself. That's where they had a sort of a grange down there as well. And this track was also used by Cawden Abbey. So when it came over to Kilnsey, the Cawden Abbey went up the valley to Kettlewell and then climbed out of Kettlewell over to the Abbey, which is near Middleham, just at the side of Wensleydale, obviously at the head of Coverdale there. So let's have a look at this first. So there's just music on here, so there's not anybody talking on it. and coming around the corner is Cawden Hill. It's this sort of humpback hill here, and you can see it from Malham village as well. It's an unusual feature because this is a reef knoll. When it was a warm tropical sea around here, it was quite deep, and this probably sort of lasted a little bit longer than anywhere else. And this, is made up of a limestone marine life here. So it's a big deposit of it. But it's not just here at Malham, but it's happened elsewhere, just at the south of Grassington, really from Grassington going to Burnsall at Fort. There's 2 reef knolls there as well, Cale Hill and El Bolton Hill. And it's much softer limestone as well. But they tend to be these rounded conical type features that you get. So that's Cawden Hill, as part of really at the edge of the Craven Fault coming around here. So where the water they assumed was a lot deeper, and a lot of marine life swirled around in that area and died in that area, rather than the other ones dispersing over a wider area and it being laid down in horizontal bands over the millions of years. And then we're coming to Janet's Foss. This is sort of the edge of the mid-Craven Fault, and it's really a band of much harder rock coming out here before it goes on to the much softer limestone further down here that runs down the rest of the valley. So it's really at the edge of really sort of the of the fault, really. And really, when you see on the film, is what you can walk up and down is part of that fault. Over here is Gordale Beck coming down here. And this is the traditional route that people would take from Malham to do the 6¼ mile Malham round. They would come up this, and like I say, I've done a bit of footage showing coming up from the Malham direction, looking at here. And you can see the people down here, it's a sort of what's quite popular now is this sort of wild water swimming type pool. And there's actually a number of people doing it when I was there. This was taken in the, I think, something like the 27th, 28th of September this year. Obviously, it's a lovely day, but I bet it was still very cold getting in there. So that's Janet's Foss. And because then we're coming up to Gordale Scar, again, right on the mid-Craven Fault. And this is really sort of how it was created. A lot of people thought initially, but it was actually a huge rock cavern where water came down and then the roof fell down. But they felt so that that actually didn't happen. But it was really the amount of meltwater coming off the ice up here, where it was about 500 feet thick, and because it melted around about sort of the ice age started about 80,000 years ago, and then started to melt and completely gone by about 10,000 years ago. And it was the water gushing down here that cut along this fault and into this weakness that created this gorge coming down here. The sides of it about 150 feet deep, and you can still see there's a waterfall here. There's a smaller one higher up because it's still, the sort of geology is still changing. The waterfall higher up, it's a much smaller one, but springs coming out of there that only formed in the late 19th century. So part of the walk, as you can see here, comes up here, and you've got to climb up the right-hand side of the waterfall, although you can go up the left-hand side as well. I think it's a bit more steeper there to get up onto this Malham round around the walk around here. I'll just see if there's anything else on the notes there. But this sort of gorge ravine is about a mile long, and it sort of heads up, because it follows the Gordale Beck, and then the path comes out, and then you walk across to Malham Tarn. So let's have a look at this bit of film. Again, it's just music behind it. So Gordale Scar there. Let's then look at the next part of it, just returning from Gordale. So it's about a mile and a half along that road to this junction. That's where I came down, where the no entry sign is there. And I'm actually not, although I can draw the line coming down here, I couldn't draw the line coming over here on this map. But I'm coming over here. This is where the Pinfold is. I'm coming to this area around here. You see it drops down to Beck Hall. Last week we came across here where Cromwell Cottage was across, and then there was a clapper bridge across there. There's an older clapper bridge called Moon's Bridge higher up there, which I'm going to show, but that's just slightly above Beck Hall itself. It's because one of a number of bridges down here. There's the main bridge down there. Then coming down here, that's where the youth hostel is, the Lister Arms around here. And then I'm going to finish on the road bridge across the centre of the village, across Malham Beck. So that's the Pinfold there. That's where stray animals were put in. So the main road into the village from Gordale is that little bit lower down. So you got to walk up here a little bit to come down this track where the Pinfold is. So that's where that big tree is stuck in the middle of it. There are a number of interesting buildings down here. This is probably the most interesting of them, the Malham Free School. This was sort of was donated by, or the land and the cost of the building by Roland Brayshaw in 1717, and he endowed it with £49 a year. So it was actually income. That's why it's called a free school, because he said the schoolmaster was to teach all and every scholar who lives within Malham, only as well as poor as rich, without any partiality, as shall repair to the school to be taught and instructed. Came a bit of a problem when this turned into a national school in 1874, because then pupils then had to pay to go to the school, and a lot of people were complaining is that it had been free and should remain free until that time. And it then conjoined with the Kirby Malham School and was then rebuilt at the side of a road in between Kirby Malham and Malham itself, and that's where it remains today. This then, from 1875, then became the reading room, and because where sort of adult classes was sort of held, and then finished in 1903 because the village hall then opened. That's the one I showed you, really at the junction where the bridge is, just above the pub on the other side of the bridge, and then this was turned into a house. Next, further down, is Prior Farm. This takes its name because it was owned. This actually was owned by the Bolton Priory, and this created a lot of problems because of Malham Beck below, as we'll see, is being access between the lands owned by the abbeys. Like I said, there's Dereham Abbey as well, owned lands around here. Fountains Abbey owned a bit of a village, but not much. And then Bolton Abbey or Bolton Priory was this side. So that's where its name is Priory Farm was, because it's where Bolton Priory's grain sheep farm was. You can follow this track down here because it leads down to Beck Hall. But in between that, Lucy's looking across, that's the free school up there. There's this field that runs down to Deadman Lane. That's the actual road into Malham from Gordale Scar and the coming down the rakes. And this was once, as it says, a deer park, but it's also where the sheep sales took place as well. And then later on, when the sheep sales didn't take place any longer in here, they took place outside the Lister Arms a bit further down, which we're going to see. So that track coming along there, that's the free school. The Prior Farm is a bit further along, just to there. And then this path then takes you down to the Beck and to the stream coming down there. So we've looked the other side of Beck, but this is Beck Hall, which we could see from the other side, because it's an old building which foundations are back to the 17th century. And across
Has his speech gone? Peter.
Shh.
Unmute yourself and tell him that he can't hear.
Mark, your speech is gone, audio is gone.
Again. Can you hear me yet?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. I think I put the wrong battery in the camera. I must have taken the one to recharge, which was full already, and then put the one from last Wednesday in. I thought I got them the right way around, but they were both on my desk. So apologies for that. But if you can hear, can you see my picture as well?
Yes.
Right, excellent. So my apologies for that. I thought I'd done right, but obviously done wrong. So Beck Hall, because it was dated back to the 17th century, but what we see here is largely a Victorian recreation of that. But there is one more bridge which stands a bit sort of higher up, and this is Moon Bridge. This is like a much older clapper bridge that crosses it. Why is it called Moon Bridge? Because the last prior of Bolton Abbey was Richard Moon, and he was the inspiration for the children's song, Hey Diddle Diddle. And there is a sort of a cat on the side of Bolton Priory, or a dog laughing down there, and you say that was associated with them. That's why it's called Moon Bridge. It's built higher up than the Beck House, Beck Hall, largely because then the monks didn't have to cross in front of Beck Hall, and because that was owned by Fountains Abbey, that little bit of land there, and therefore they could come across here, which is above Beck Hall, and go round to Prior Farm without crossing any lands belonging to Fountains Abbey, because the Fountains Abbey didn't own much in Malham. They've probably given it to them from Dereham Abbey through some sort of a deal or other around there. So that's the much higher clapper bridge that comes round by the Priory Farm. Coming down the main road, then we come across the youth hostel. This was one of the more modern buildings in the village. It was created into youth hostel in 1938, and then much enlarged with this extension over here in 1967. Because it has 19 bedrooms and 81 bed spaces in there. Because it's not the most recent building in it, but one of the more modern ones. Some bungalows on the road up on Cove Road out to the Malham Cove itself. And then coming back into the village itself, that's the youth hostel over there, and this is the Lister Arms. It's so called because Thomas Lister bought the lands around here. This be after the dissolution sometime. He then sold the lands. Thomas Lister then became Lord Ribblesdale. And we wonder how the Morrison family got hold of these lands, because Lord Ribblesdale, who later lived at Gisborne Park, which was part of Yorkshire, but now is in Lancashire, about 20 miles further over. He would have known the MP for Ipswich, and that's probably how he came to buy the lands around here, and Walter Morrison then inherited them off his father. There's a date stone above the pub of 1723, and it shows a wine goblet over there as well, so it probably has always been a pub. So there's been pubs on both sides of the Beck, so it's really that sort of split that's still going on. And in front of it stands the village green. I'm there taking this photograph from the middle of the bridge over the Beck, and this was latterly the scene of where the sheep sales took place around here until 1960, and then all the sheep sales were transferred across to Skipton Auction Mart, where they still take place today.